Okay, now we're moving on to DNA replication and the situations under which that may occur and what all this has to do with evolution. So how does DNA become replicated? DNA bunches up to form chromosomes, and it can replicate in a couple of different ways. One is through mitosis, regular cell division, and another is through meiosis. You need to know what both processes do, but you really need to know for this lesson this evolutionary significance of meiosis. So in mitosis, each pair of chromosomes is duplicated and each duplicate pair is separated. This results in two identical sister cells. Again, it's regular cell division. In meiosis, each pair of chromosomes is duplicated, each duplicate pair is separated, and then these pairs are separated once more to form 4 cells. Each of those cells have only one half of the original pair of chromosomes. And we're ending with 4 cells that are different. This is the process by which sperm and egg are formed. Sexual reproduction can then take place when sperm and egg from different individuals emerge, with each new cell, or each cell, containing half the pair of chromosomes that is required to create the new individual. As you can imagine, since the DNA is halved, when they recombine sperm and egg, you're not getting double the genetic material, which would be a mutation. You're getting the right amount of genetic material. So that genetic material, or the chromosomes, need to be halved in order to get one whole person when the egg is fertilized. So here's an image of that happening and the two different processes. So there are 2 important reasons why meiosis is especially significant for biological evolution. There are actually 3. I might require you to write about 3 this week. First, meiosis is the process by which the sex cells are created. Therefore, the genes present in the resultant daughter cells will be passed on to the next generation. So the first reason is basically because of reproduction. Things that are happening in meiosis will be passed on to the next generation. Don't forget, again, biological evolution is a change in gene frequencies in a population over time. Therefore, if a change or mutation occurs, it could be passed on through the generations and provide variation that allows biological evolution to occur. So this point here is sort of a second point, all right? Not only is this the process by which genes are passed on, but if a mutation occurs and can be passed on, this can allow the variation required for something like, let's say, natural selection to occur. So secondly, or thirdly, if you want to look at it that way, and this is the most interesting thing. In meiosis, paired chromosomes are separated. Therefore, the 4 daughter cells will not be identical. In addition, corresponding portions of chromosomes will cross over and shuffle to create new combinations of genes. Remember, again, biological evolution is a change in gene frequencies in a population over time. Therefore, processes such as meiosis are very important to understand when learning about biological evolution. So while meiosis and crossing over, recombination is the process that occurs during crossing over, you can use crossing over and recombination interchangeably, and I will understand what you're talking about. So while crossing over and recombination don't add new genetic variation, so they don't add mutations, they do recombine genes, and genes can have different effects on other genes within an organism. And these different combinations can be passed on, thus contributing to biological evolution. So we're shuffling and possibly having different effects within one organism with this process of crossing over and recombination. All right, before we conclude the lesson, we need to learn a little bit about population genetics. This is a little bit where our change in gene frequencies in a population over time can come up in the study of population genetics. So we've got lots of factors here: individuals, populations, and evolution. At the level of the individual, the study of genetics shows us how traits are transmitted from parent to offspring enabling a prediction about which traits that individual will display. At the level of the group, genetics takes on additional importance, revealing how evolutionary processes account for the diversity of life on Earth. One key concept in population genetics is that of the biological population, or breeding group. So let's define population here. A population shares a gene pool, which is all the genetic variants or alleles possessed by members of that population. So you need to remember that a population is a group of individuals of the same species that can interbreed. So the population needs to be local to each other, they need to have access to each other, and they all, of course, share that gene pool. So what happens inevitably, and we learned about this when we learned about natural selection, is that some individuals contribute more to the gene pool through differential reproductive success. So as we learned in natural selection, those with the traits that enhance or improve survivability and reproduction will spread across generations. So over generations, the relative proportions of those alleles that code for those traits will change. Things can be selected for, things can be selected against, and of course that change over time is biological evolution. So in other words, at the level of population genetics, evolution can be defined as changes in allele frequencies in populations. This is also known as microevolution. And this statement or fact concludes this part of the lesson.